Well, it is that time. Wow. Boggles my mind that we have come so far in this series of tearing down the altars of chaos. Absolutely is whoa. I did not know, when I first started this process and was chasing the concept, I had no clue that it would span almost 4 months. I take it back to the time that I first got this revelation. I was reading in the I think it was John, of the time that Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him up a mountain, and there he was transfigured. And the Amplified says that he became who he actually is. So the muted human form where everybody could be around him and interact with him, that was an extreme muted version. But when he went up on the mountain and was transfigured, it was the type of transfiguration where he became as he was actually meant to be. And that's the part that just. So then I began to wonder, is it possible that we here have been on the earth doing what we think is the way to do it, but in the process of doing how we think it's supposed to be done, we're very muted. And the reason that we're very muted is because there's so much emphasis on our life agreeing with a principality instead of agreeing with God. It just boggles my mind. And, then I began to think, what if there were somewhere in the Bible that it would specifically talk about this thing of any other perspective on life except, or rather in place of, God's? What if there were some place in the Bible that would talk about that? And to my shock, it's in 3rd John. And so when I heard the late Chuck Missler talk about Diotrephes. Yeah, I don't blame you, Google Meet. I didn't know how to say it first either. But it's not diet reefers. Diotrephes. Closer. Check this out. Once we get back from this particular intro, then I'll show you what it is that I'm talking about. Ooh. All right. Getting straight into the scripture. It's going to be right here. The elder, to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in the truth. Beloved, I pray that in every way you may prosper and enjoy good health as your soul also prospers. For I was overjoyed when the brothers came and testified about your devotion to the truth, in which you continue to walk. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in truth. Then we have an interesting commendation here. Beloved, you are faithful in what you are doing for the brothers, and especially since they are strangers to you. They have testified to the church about your love. You will do well to send them on their way in a manner worthy of God. For they went out on behalf of the name, which is the name of Jesus, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. Therefore, we ought to support such men so that we may be fellow workers for the truth. And then we have this name that the title is about. I have written to the church about this, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not accept our instruction. Excuse me. So if I come, I will call attention to his malicious slander against us. And unsatisfied with that, he refuses to welcome the brothers and forbids those who want to do so, even putting them out of the church. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. The one who does good is of God. The one who does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has received a good testimony from everyone and from the truth itself. We also testify for him, and you know that our testimony is true. And then finally, this conclusion can also be found in the previous book. I have many things to write to you, but I would prefer not to do so with pen and ink. Instead, I hope to see you soon and speak with you face to face. Peace to you. The friends here send you greetings. Greet each of our friends there by name. Wow. And then we got footnotes. So that's the end of that chapter. It's a very, very short chapter. Only 14 verses in 3rd John, but there is one specific thing in there. Some guy named Diotrephes. So we're going to take that over to Blue Letter Bible for a moment. Going to quick nav there. Right, going to leave that right there. Come over here. Living Bible. Dear Gaius, I am praying that all is well with you and that your body is as healthy as I know your soul is. Some of the brothers traveling by have made me very happy by telling that your life stays clean and true and that you are living by the standards of the gospel. I could have no greater joy than to hear such things about my children. Dear friend, you are doing good work for God in taking care of the traveling teachers and missionaries who are passing through. They have told the church here of your friendship and your loving deeds. I am glad when you send them on their way with a generous gift for they are traveling for the Lord and take neither food, clothing, shelter, or money from those who are not Christians, even though they have preached to them. So we ourselves should take care of them in order that we may become partners with them in the Lord's work. I sent a brief letter to the church about this, but proud Diotrephes, who loves to push himself forward as the leader of the Christians there, does not admit my authority over him and refuses to listen to me. When I come, I will tell you some of the things he is doing and what wicked things he is saying about me and what insulting language he is using. He not only refuses to welcome the missionary travelers himself, but tells others not to. And when they do, he tries to put them out of the church. This is harsh. Let's go see what it means. To the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to have the preeminence among them, receives us not. All right. So I'm going to go into the tools, going to grab his actual name. Grab the preeminence. Then coming down here, remember his deeds, which is prating against us with malicious words and content therewith neither. What's the phrase there? Prating against us with malicious words. Prating against with malicious words. All right, so we have this one.
Strong's G 1361. Diotrephes. Diotrephes.
And then that's an alternative of this and this. And I'm going to take this backwards because this quite literally, I was I was sitting when I read this and I couldn't move for quite a while afterward because I was so incredibly stunned. So, Trefel.
Strong's G 5142. Trefel. Trefel.
It has some interesting usage, right? But it says here it's primary through Trefel from the base of this one.
Strong's G 5157. Trape. Trape.
A turning of the heavenly bodies. But if we go back a step, it says through the idea of convolution. This thing here, this word right here, I want you to check it out. Uh, no, I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of convection. I got that incorrect. All right, so convolution. Convolution, as a definition, convex fold or elevation in the surface of the brain, the action of coiling, twisting, or winding together the shape of something rotating rapidly. We get the term convection from convolution. And let's see if I can find an image. Like so. Open tab. Convective. So convective clouds, there is something going down. There's these are the fair weather convective clouds. It's just from the cold air of the high atmosphere going down and the warm air going up. And it's just, turns like that, has very little, as it says here, limited vertical development. Then there's these cumulus congestus. And a cumulus is often what we call a thunderhead because it's really pulling a bunch of moisture from the ground up into the cold atmosphere, forming this type of cloud. When they get to be really, really big, they got that. And, this is a convective cloud. Here it's pulling so much to the top that when that comes back down and there's still the updraft of the moisture, that quite literally is where, especially in North America, that's where you get tornadoes. Okay, so bearing that in mind, we come back to Diotrephes. And this section means to twist. To confuse. To cause to argue. A proud, arrogant Christian mentioned in 3 John chapter 9. But here's what blew my mind. We'd gone after this one right here, which I've got highlighted. The other part is Zeus.
Strong's G 2203. Zeus. Zeus.
Jupiter or Zeus, a father of helps, the national god of the Greeks and corresponds to the Roman Jupiter. Here was a fellow who was so active, and I'm talking about Diotrephes. Here was a fellow who was so active in following the philosophy of the Greeks. That in the process of being so attracted to the Greeks, more so than he was more attracted to the way of the Greeks than he was to Christ, even though he called himself a Christian. But let me show you a few things, because I don't know that it really hit home until I saw this. We come back over to 3rd John. This could be not there. It's going to be in the Blue Letter Bible. Oh, sorry, not Blue Letter Bible. It's going to be Bible. Copy this. Bring it over here. There's a few things we'll be able to figure out about how to not be Diotrephes by picking out the things that he did. All right. So, first thing he did or does, puts himself as first. Will not accept instruction. Slanders with maliciousness. Refuses to acknowledge others as other Christians as true and correct. Blocks others from receiving Christians. Puts anyone who disagrees with him out of the local church body. Which, this is rather interesting, and I didn't really see it until I put this all together. This is the description of anyone who is anti-Christ. Okay. All of a sudden, perspective of what it means to be upright and godly. This is suddenly way more. Whoa. Hi, JP. So, we have a bit of a predicament. How to not be Diotrephes. Well, it starts receive the opposite of loves to have the preeminence. Loss.
53.
Place section of rank, influence, honor. one who only wants, and that's what it looks like. So, back over Notepad. Okay. Now, variations, Christian, Queen, between that, this is really, really person. Do not and this for the thing called in word. First Peter 4. Very simple. If at any point that you are putting a perspective up that your way has to be the way it is, then by default, you are stating that the Bible this becomes everything that God has. But to have to go all the way. Sorry, September is when I first started. All of there's going to be a bit of a music and all that is alright. I think that I am ready. No, not quite. Give me ability and care. Jasper, give me that and close that and share the entire. These are that right. So let's see here. Come in here. Going to James. And this one is rejoicing in trials. Save it. Good and perfect. Is there a way to create three wait, and then two out. I had issues getting it. This they were the wrong now. I probably did. Save as do one. But it was amazing. Down. Phew. Lay down your All right. Going over there. That's not what I meant. Um, this. We're still there. Pride. Being near that. No, not as effective. Okay. About tomorrow. Great and living. Whew. This a called holiness. Some great word. People. Sure. Check something right quick. Bunch of stuff going on. Let me lower this a bit. Christ's example of suffering. This one was fun. I made this particular one, and then I sent it to my maliciousness, for glory, suffering as Christians, cares, partaker of divine nature, eyewitnesses of His majesty, deliverance from false prophets, all of these thumbnails all James and Peter. Now in arrival, I know there's a lot more than what I put in. I'm gonna go with that. Go back live stream. Lovely people. pointed to exploring the value of love in February. And this from this there's two of them. Children of God. Remain in Christ. Love one another. Love comes from that's part two. Overcoming. And finally, finally, walking in truth. things. I know it seems weird. We're going to go within, go to pictures. We put it all into James, right? Yeah, we did. Okay, that's fine. Right. And this arrow. And okay. I'm going to take use this as to there. And in that order, drop. Right? These actually move closer. View this view. All right. matching these up with specific breaks because they mean a specific time in the timeline. And you might, if you're as keen about listening to the music as I was, when I was first looking for the music for something that would have 3 parts to it, and be something that we could easily see as 3 parts. This gap right here, I can see the section. And as you can see, there's a gap there, there's a gap right here. James goes before that gap, all of Peter goes into this gap. Yeah, I believe that's spacing. I can't see it. Um, this is the quieter part. This is the part where I gotta focus on and making sure get all the parts. Actually, I need to back over here because I need there. Once I the order is at least chronological. Matter of right, grab this. way, that way. All right, I think we're good. So, view of the outro. I'm not do that straight to, and this is 31 days. This is I call it. Oops. Let's put this. Focus. Caring. Filters. Chaos. Export. No, we don't need it. Phew. Thank you. Part of the reason why the sound was horrible is because there was screaming kids in the background. And I didn't want y'all to hear the screaming kids. And yeah. But I got that all set up now. And it is exporting. Let's see. It's getting there. See if the peanut gallery wants to input anything. If I want to, I'll say it. In this series of tearing down the altars of chaos.
You've been on this for a very long time.
Yes.
Next time do a new topic.
Do you know when I started it?
3 years ago.
Not quite. You want to take another guess?
2 years ago.
No, not even close.
6 months ago.
Closer, yeah. Started it in September.
People tired. Let's do something else now.
You tired? When I talk
How
about.
long are you gonna stay on the topic? Like 6 months is too much.
Well, I was going through James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter. There's 3 books.
What is altars of chaos anyway? What does that even mean?
So it was Peter, James, and John that Jesus took up to the Mount of Transfiguration. Took them up to the mountain, and then once they came up to the top, in a lot of translations it says he was transfigured, he became like a pillar of light, and the disciples had to hide their face because of how bright Jesus' face and body became.
Mm-hmm.
And then Moses and Elisha came talking with them, and the Peter's great idea was, let's make a tabernacle so that they can come more often. And then God speaks in the middle of it, says, this is my son in whom I am pleased. Listen to him and obey him. And it got me to thinking, especially because of Diotrephes. You ever heard of Diotrephes?
I heard about it today.
Before today, had you even known it was in there?
No, when I say I heard about today, I'm talking about with Rima.
Oh.
She has a whole series on it.
And what did Rima? It's actually Rima that kind of enforced that I was on the right track, but on a track that the Bible presents as really important. What did you hear from Rima about this?
I didn't hear. I just made a mental note to watch it.
Oh. So, Rama is put a little bit more light on me. Not that way. Let me go here. Not quite that much light. Rama talks about how Diotrephes is someone who was listening to the Greek gods alongside the disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a result of listening to these Greek gods, it got to the point that he could not. In fact, let me read it to you here, because I did wrote it down. He was putting himself as first. He would not receive correction. Would not receive instruction, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he talked, he was speaking every which way except the truth for the purpose of hurting, dismembering, or destroying any proof of a leader being trustworthy.
Mm.
He refused to acknowledge other Christians as true or correct.
Wow.
He blocked anyone else from receiving so if, let's say we're at church and let's say Diotrephes is there, he's in leadership of that church, but he's also, if any other person comes in that's a visiting Christian from a different church, he'll make sure they can't come into the church. And then, when he finds that there's anybody else that is letting people into that church, he makes sure that that person and the visitor is gone. That's Diotrephes.
Wow.
That's who John was writing about. And then I got the shock of my life this evening when it says that he was prating with maliciousness. And that thing of prating, that word prating is used once in the King James, and it's only that one section of 3 John.
Mm.
And it means to speak the same words as the evil one that we are to ask God to deliver us from. He's more or less Satan.
Dang.
In the church.
Dang.
And then on top of that, his name means Zeus.
His what?
His name means Zeus.
That's what Diotrephes mean? But is it like Greek?
Yeah, for pursuing the god of Zeus. He called himself a Christian, but was going after Zeus.
Oh, wow.
Called himself a Christian, made sure he was the number one in the church. Anybody who disagreed with him, bye.
Dang.
And I looked at that all the way back in September.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, I have seen this guy in every church I've been to.
Mm.
Sometimes in leadership, sometimes not. If not in leadership, at least trying to tell everybody that they was. Or that she was. I've seen it every church I've gone to. Happily, with one exception.
Which is?
Victory.
Yeah.
Have not seen it there.
Yeah.
So, all that as the perspective. We now go for the outro. And the outro is going to be amazing because it's a 5-minute outro. JP probably left because the sound was horrible. Sorry, JP. I can only be nice so many times or something like that. But this is the very last Altars of Chaos. Tearing down the Altars of Chaos. And then when I got to reading this description of Diotrephes,
Yeah.
I wrote, this is the description of anyone who is Antichrist.
Ooh. Hello. Hey, how are you doing?
Alright. That's all I got. Tomorrow's gonna be comparison of 2 things of bitterness.
I need to ask you, have you ever picked up
Oh, I gotta put the outro in here.
by Kevin L.A. Ewing? Kevin L.A. Ewing.
TDOC
But
outro.
I think
Not
it's
gonna
always good
bloop.
to maybe possibly look at alternatives. Are you even, well, if it's deep, that's deep. If it's deep, that's one thing. But is it actually